The land, like us, is alive. You don't have to venture far from our cities and towns to experience nature in a way we never have before.
So refreshing.
You may know Aaron as an actor and descendant of Aranda and Arabana people, but nature is his medicine. I'm a writer. They have that mythic fairy tale quality, and my passion is sharing the magic of the natural world. Come with us and slow down as we go back to nature. Come with us to the highest part of Australia. Here we'll see where a river is born.
It's the humble beginnings of the Snowy River.
Take shelter in a venerable old hut.
Just like we're cowering in here now.
From the storm.
And we're invited to listen to country. This is the high country. Where the earth touches the sky. The weather is colder up here, and your senses feel very alive.
The Snowy Mountains, part of the Australian Alps, are 2.5 hours southwest of Canberra. In Kosciuszko National Park, we'll be walking across the high country to the Rams Head Range and Charlotte Pass, cycling along the Cascade Trail and kayaking the lower Snowy River. Does a river have a will to be born? A will to live? We're just off the road to Mount Kosciuszko, Australia's highest peak. There's no fanfare, but Ngarigo people who've long walked these lands revere these sacred waters. The birthplace of the Snowy River. Fresh water and snow, they're the strong elements of this country here. It starts here, but it runs all the way through every country. And it feeds everything. It touches everything. It sustains life for us.
This land was once underneath the ocean. But millions of years ago, the seabed lifted and folded into sharp mountain peaks. which was smoothed out by millions more years of weather erosion. But the mountains aren't just shaped by the weather. They help create it. Their towering presence blocks warm air streams from lower altitudes, forcing the air to rise, cool, and form clouds, which will bestow the land with rain and snow.
We're walking across the rooftop of Australia to the Ram's Head Range. Glaciers carved these granite tors during the last ice age. There's a powerful sense up here of the sky and earth being in an eternal dance.
This alpine vegetation is part of that dance. Sphagnum mosses act like giant sponges that hold rain and snow. Candleheath has evolved to intersect the heavens and collect moisture from clouds and mists. The sky-kissed earth gently releases water during dry months, so it trickles downhill to where it's needed.
Three of Australia's most iconic rivers are born in the Alps: the Snowy, the Murrumbidgee, and the Murray. These rivers have nourished many countries and generations of people.
During summer, these high granite caves have long been a refuge for millions of bogong moths, who fly in from breeding grounds as far away as Queensland to shelter in these cool crevices, covering the walls like thick velvet curtains. As they only live 1 year, and no moth ever comes twice, it's long been a mystery how they find their way here. But recent research has shown they navigate using the Milky Way as a visual compass.
For at least hundreds of years, the warmer months would see First Nations people journey to the foot of the mountains. Places like Krakenback for big annual get-togethers. Different clan groups, maybe 500 or 700 people. It'd be this big gathering of it'd be the first time you've seen, family, friends, relatives, but also, it's where all the young ones would probably meet their future wife or husband.
Oh.
Yeah, big trouble probably. You all right?
Yeah, thank you.
Men who'd undergone the appropriate rites would climb these high peaks to hunt the bogong moths, a delicacy enjoyed at these gatherings. All the men go up to the caves. They'd wander in there and the cave walls would just be full of these moths, the bogong moths. And to bring them down, they'd smoke them, and they'd fall, and before they hit the ground, they'd catch them in nets, put them in bags and baskets, and they'd be like, yeah, this is beautiful. And then they'd take it away and they'd cook it in the ashes, and then they'd squeeze them down into patties, and they'd just eat them like that. Really quite nutty, really delicious.
Like the most massive family barbecue.
Totally. Dancing and singing and catching up with old friends and relatives. And
God, I wish I could go to a party like that. Can you imagine all your senses, what it must have looked like to see the fires, to smell food, campfire smoke, the sound of kids laughing, adults laughing.
Pretty amazing.
That sound of joy ricocheting off the valley. Oh, I wish I could hear it.
Can you hear it now?
I wish.
Yeah. Talking about muscle, let's get going, butterfly.
Yeah, let's do it, let's do it, yeah. We've walked to Charlotte Pass. This is the tree line, the highest elevation in Australia where trees can grow. These majestic snow gums are uniquely resilient. The winter's snow, wind and ice does not kill them, but sculpts their twisting limbs. The molecules of a living sap suffuse the bark with intense colours, which become faded by exposure to the elements. The bark is shed in ribbons, and streaks form between the inner and outer layers. At lower altitudes, the same species of snow gums are usually straighter and greyer.
We've descended in altitude to a path known as the Cascade Trail. It's believed the trail follows an ancient route between the mountains and lower lands that First Nations people have walked for millennia.
Local writer Elaine Mitchell wrote of this landscape, "Nowhere else have I ever felt the subtle magnetism of an ancient land that holds dreams far, far older than history." Elaine Mitchell became famous with her children's book series, The Silver Brumby, which immortalised the alpine landscape, including the area around Cascade Hut. The hut was built in 1935 as shelter from storms.
The weather just changes so quickly.
What heaven this little hut must be when there's a wild woolly storm out there. It's just like we're cowering in here now. Grateful to be out of the rain.
From the storm.
From the storm.
You know, I wonder how many lives it saved.
All sorts of years, 1979, 1937, 1952. Elaine Mitchell first visited this hut when cross-country skiing in 1941. While famous for her children's stories, she was also one of our earliest environmental writers, with books like Speak to the Earth, published in 1945. Speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee. Her writing has an unfailing sense of the spiritual refreshment that comes from contact with the earth and with simple things that endure through the chaos of civilization in flames. Remembering 45 was the end of World War II, and the world had literally been in flames of war. And that sentiment travels through time to right now. And the earth still gives us medicine and belonging when the world around us feels like it's in some kind of flames. All forests have their individual spirit and seem to wield some influence over the peoples that live within them, or give to them something of their power. It's a really mysterious process when a landscape calls to be written and conjured in story. I know it in my own writing, and I wonder if it's what Elaine Mitchell felt when she conjured this landscape to life through her words that went out into the minds of millions of readers around the world. Take the time to go outside and listen. Does the landscape speak to you? Write down a line, a paragraph, or a poem, and share with us on social media at #BackToNatureAU.
We've come to the foothills and valleys at the base of the mountain range. The weather is warmer here, and we're about to be reunited with the Snowy River.
Here on Ngarigo country, the river is a couple of thousand metres lower than its birthplace.
To show us through this landscape, we're meeting someone who knows this country. Richard Swain, or Swainy, is a Wiradjuri man and river guide.
You might feel it's like a different world down here. When I come here, I like to introduce myself to country, say hello, and let country know who I am. The best way for me to do that is to take some of the earth and mix it with my sweat, and I sprinkle it into the river to let the river know that I'm here and to introduce myself to the land. You'll have a better day if you introduce yourself to country. Come on, Swaney, let's go. Well, every river's the river of life. Water is sacred, and it is alive. It's magical. I remember just about every day I've ever been on the Snowy.
For many thousands of years, the roar of this river was so loud it could be heard for miles, especially during the springtime snowmelt. But after the construction of the Snowy Hydro scheme, the river was reduced to only 1% of its flow. Though in recent years, the dams have released some extra waters.
Before 1969, the water would have been above our heads. and it was full of fish, full of eels, full of life.
First Nations people have long used this river and the riverbank as a travelling route.
It's a pretty quick walk up onto the top of the mountains from here. And, you know, there's thousands and thousands of years, men, women and children have left that mark on the country. Sometimes you can almost feel and hear the kids chatting and laughing. The country misses that.
Reminders of the lives lived along these riverbanks can still be seen if you can read country.
It doesn't really matter where you walk, you're going to find stuff and tools and artefacts. In this country, every time you see a river rock that's not near the river, it's a real giveaway. It was brought here to be used. And they were used to hit against the core stone, and that's how you made your cutter stones.
That edge, that is sharp. And what would these cutter stones have been used for?
Well, everything you use a knife today. Like in ceremony, when you get your scars and stuff, they're to cut you. But in every other day of the week, they're for skinning and cutting up animals. And yeah, around here, you can find something like this nearly every 10 steps. And it's important that we leave it where we found it. It's against the law, but that's LORE law to take it.
It's really emotive, holding this. With each step, this country seems to be opening up.
This is called a wende, a canoe. It was made to fit 2 people. This is one of the younger ones, I think, but I don't know. It'd be really hard to date. They're always up a bit from the river because traditionally this river could come down 10-metre high wall of water. Would have been cut with an axe, and the axes would have looked like this.
Yeah.
They're ground river stone. All right, so they would have had to cut the scar, which is quite hard work to cut this really tough bark. And then they have to prise it off without breaking it.
It's amazing how this tree's healed itself.
It's alive because the old fellas asked for permission before they cut it. This tree gave its permission, and that's why this tree is obviously still thriving. And it knows we're talking to it now. I see kurukurai, the wind's going through the leaves there, speaking to us. Everyone would have known how to listen to country. Yeah. The signals you're looking for either come from you just know it, right or wrong.
Along with inner knowing, country might grant permission with a gentle breeze, or send signals that permission is not given.
The wind might drop a branch or something will tell you it's not on. Doesn't mean it's not on forever, but it's just not the right thing.
That's pretty moving, the reverence between the people asking permission and the tree.
That's how we lived. What thousands of generations of Australians did. The land had a voice, and we listened. reckon everywhere's sacred just about. It's hard to go somewhere that's not special in Australia. The relationship between people and country has been so long and so harmonious that that's why the country still speaks. You know, you're ever walking through the bush and you're really relaxed, birds are chirping, and you might get off track and you don't feel as good and the bush goes quiet. And that's country speaking to you. And when you get back on track, things feel good again. And that's, to me, that's your genealogical memory. That's, you're from the earth and she sings to you when you hear those songs. And
if it's not of our genealogical memory, do you think it's possible for us to learn how to listen to country?
I do. There's 3,000 generations of people who consider themselves custodians of this country. You've got to include yourself in that. You're part of that.
And how would someone like me accept that beautiful invitation and learn to listen to country?
Well, I taught you how to introduce yourself to country. Once you claim caring for it and protecting it as your culture, things will just grow from there. We don't have to turn back time. We've just got to open our eyes and our ears and our spirit and, yeah. The country's inviting you to listen to it. The country's crying out for people to listen to it.
Well, hello, night country. Hope you don't snow. I'm from the desert.
Majestic river country. It's beautiful to have met you and to have begun listening to you. Thanks for speaking with us. I hope our conversation lasts a lifetime.
There's nothing more delicious than a warming mug of hot chocolate under the stars. Into some hot milk, add some roasted wattle seeds. It's best you buy them, as some wattle seeds can be poisonous. Add 4 teaspoons of cocoa and stir. Roast some marshmallows over the fire. Add to the hot chocolate. You might also want to add some honey, then pour into mugs.